the naps are happening more and more often. So I thank you for those who've been praying for me. My left kidney, my left kidney feels painful and hot. So if you keep me in prayer, so Cyborg Boxing checked in. Thank you, Cyborg. So, uh, news is still the same. North Laurel, air quality is good. It's 38 degrees, and radiation is 10. Background radiation is 10, so it's normal. So, I tell you, what's up, Matt? I'll tell you, it's a good idea to get a Geiger counter while they're still cheap. So, oh boy. So, all right. Satellite imagery captured a rare scene at a shipyard in China earlier this month, which showed a Chinese submarine with its launch tubes open. So, oh, you know it, Matt. You know it. So, my blood pressure was low all last night, so that meant I didn't have to get up in the middle of the night and take medicine. But the thing with my gut has been painful for the last few days, and my left kidney has been hot and painful. So, what's up, May? How you doing? So normally when these people they know what time the satellites go over. Thank you, Matt. They know what time the satellites go over. So they open up the hatches on their sub, and that's a way of threatening that they're launch ready. And then that makes America go into launch ready. It's called DEFCON 2. And then DEFCON 1 is when actually everybody pushes the button. And then we all go back to the Stone Age. So it's a shame. It's a shame. It's everybody, whenever they have these weapons, eventually they use them. They're like little boys with toys. They can't wait. They can't wait to push the button and roast a whole bunch of innocent people. France's new aircraft carrier. All right. Uh, it says France is making the same mistake other powers currently are in assuming they can fight tomorrow's wars with yesterday's weapons. So, a great big aircraft carrier, it only takes a couple of fish to sink them, Doesn't take very much to sink them. So, it says here that uh, the former Sleepy Joe has lost his special information that they used to give to ex presidents. So they don't give him the world report anymore. I doubt if Sleepy Joe even knows where he is. I doubt that Sleepy Joe even knows where he is, much less anything else. So my little fluffy ball keeps. What's up, Eggs Plays? So Pakistan Pakistan reacts to Donald Trump's F-35 jet offer to India. To India. In case you don't know, India and Pakistan hate each other. India is Hindu. Pakistan is Muslim. 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 So, yes, I just took my medicine. U.S. Attorney resigns amid purge of White House former administration officials. Okay. So, U.S. amphibious ships facing
Whatever you do,
new issues. Only half of them are in good condition. Well, that's the American way, isn't it, to build a crapwad load of stuff and only half of it works? That's like the American way. So, Billy Idol has knocked out a Rock Hall nomination. Oh no. Oh no. So, Prime Video just added 25-year-old sci-fi cult classic. So, I've never seen this movie before. I thought the book Dune was great. I thought the book Dune was great. I thought the movie Dune sucked. I thought the movie sucked. The part of the movie that was the most compelling was when the guy with all the snot running down his nose goes up to the other guy and takes the plug out of his heart, and his heart goes glug, 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 like that. Now, why on earth would you let anybody put a discipline plug on your heart? And they don't know anatomy anyway. The heart is protected by the ribs. It's not where you can just take and put a plug on your heart and drain your oil like a car. It was stupid. It was stupid and idiotic and all that other stuff. So, uh, in any case, Prime Video in the U.S. now has added Pitch Black. Uh, isn't Pitch Black that movie with the bald guy? With the bald guy in the Charger, and he's got the special glasses so he can see at night. And there are these nighttime monsters that you can't quite see because, like every B movie, Vin Diesel, yeah, yeah, it's that crappy, boring movie, and they have it shot in the dark so that they don't have to use real expensive props, and you never really see what the creature is that's wiping everybody out. Yeah, it's a very dangerous movie. You could get bored to death. You could get bored to death watching it. So, uh, oh, good. Quid pro quo. The bear country the bear country has offered India its most advanced Su-57 stealth jets. What about poor Pakistan, though? Pakistan has got snubbed by both America and the bear country. So America is offering India F-35s, and Russia is offering India Su-57s. I hear that the F-35s have more comfortable seating than the bear country jets. So if you're gonna go out, if you're gonna go out and BOMB the crap out of somebody, you want to be comfortable. You want the jet to be comfortable while you're doing that, I guess. So, uh, boy, we're offering 2 squads of F-35s to India. 2 squads. So Russia offered 1 squad. We offered 2. All right. Okay. So, and they're still pushing electric cars. Uh, weren't the F-35s were the jets that China stole the plans for and copied, weren't they, Matt? The F-35s. What's up, Larry? So the USS Harry S. Truman got its hull pierced.
About what specific?
So it's heading to port for a damage assessment. So, and it looks like really bad. It looks like really bad damage. So we're fighting warfare with all of these billion-dollar equipment, and the enemy is fighting with atypical. It's called atypical uh, warfare with drones and stuff. So, U.S. Army confirms precision strike. You know what? Capable to engage the enemy's ballistic. You know what's. So everybody keeps upping the stakes, and things are boiling. So as Israel fields iron beam, it must mean ion beam. Gulf states are pining for the technology. Oh, they're calling it the Iron Beam instead of the Iron Dome. I got it. I got it. Instead of using missiles in the Iron Dome, they're going to use the Iron Beam. So, you see the little beam? And everybody says all of these random house fires where the houses are burning down and the trees are fine. And that's just everybody's imagination. And go back to sleep, you conspiracy tinfoil hatter, you know. So they've had this stuff for decades. Excuse me. So a walk-in, a new walk-in tiled shower could cost you $10,000. Wow, $10,000 just a shower. Iron Beam was unveiled in 2014. That long ago. Wow. So you know all of that stuff like Maui burning down, and then they had real estate agents go door to door and buy the land up for cheap, and the insurance companies were told not to insure people there anymore. So the value of the land went down into the toilet, and then BlackRock and other companies bought the stuff up. So triple aircraft carrier exercise sends warning to the Dragon Country. Well, it's a good thing somebody is getting exercise. So the Ford F-150 is dethroned as America's top-selling vehicle for nearly 50 years. And the Dragon Country has come out with the pickup truck that is $3,500. $3,500. So Motor Oil says good morning. We'll be glad when JFK and MLK files are released. Okay, I'm from that period. It's not brain surgery. All right. Let's zip the whole thing backwards about JFK. The Kennedy family, the Kennedy family during their upswing, all right, Joe Kennedy made his money on liquor and foreclosures, all right, liquor and foreclosures. They even used U.S. Navy ships to run some of it, all right. So let me see if I can find that. Kennedy uses U.S. Navy ships. So, okay, it's going to tell about the Cuban Missile Crisis and all of that, and Operation Noble Eagle, and all that other stuff, but it's not going to tell. It's sanitized. In other words, it's sanitized. It's not going to tell about Joe sneaking, liquor on U.S. Ships. In any case, Joe apparently was tied in with the MOB, with Big Tony and his boys. So in any case, and I'm sure Matt is looking this up right now. Matt will pop it up, and if anybody can get it, Matt will pop it up. So long story short was the Kennedys always had an association with the MOB, like the Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra, and others in Vegas, and all that other good stuff. So you had the choice. You had the choice of Richard Nixon at that point. Richard Nixon, who looked like a dill pickle on TV. His side image on a black and white 1950s television looked like a black and white dill pickle. Very boring individual. All right. Now, Kennedy had a lot of charisma. Kennedy was Catholic. All right. So they were afraid. They said, well, Kennedy will never win because he's a Catholic. When I was young, our family went to a white only beach. All right. And we pulled up to the beach. This was in 1959. We pulled up to the beach in our 1959 rented Chevy Impala Super Sport, teal blue with a red interior, very unusual color combination. And the sign said, the sign said white only, $9. It was like $9 or $6. Now, $9 back then was a lot of money. That would be a whole day's pay for the working man back in 1959. I made $9 a day when I started working 14 at the gas station. I made $9 a day, not $9 an hour. So the sign said white only, no Negroes, no Jews on the sign for this beach when I was a toddler. So my father turned to my mother and quipped that we had gotten in under the wire because we were raised Catholic. Uh, yeah, bootlegging, running booze. Thank you, Matt. Uh, but like I said, they used Navy ships. At one point, they used Navy ships in their operation. It was all tied together. Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack and all of the others, okay, with Joe Kennedy. So, in any case, in any case, the public was worried about JFK getting elected because being Catholic, they were worried that the Vatican would end up pulling the strings behind America's politics. All right. So Kennedy gets in with a lot of charisma and a lot of bling and everything. Marilyn Monroe and that whole thing with the stars backing him and all of the lefties and all backing him. But then after he gets in, he decides to do a Zelensky and not be the puppet that they wanted him to be. So he cut his puppet strings and he and his brother Robert decided to go after the mob and the very people that helped him that helped him uh, get into power. So they're like, wait a minute. This was supposed to be our boy in office. So when Kennedy made that speech, he made his own speech uh, uh, paraphrased about cleaning up the swamp. He doomed himself when he made that speech. He came out and he made it clear to the very mob people that had helped him get into office that he was their enemy. so so in any case, you have Lyndon Baines Johnson was Kennedy's vice president. Lyndon Baines Johnson felt that he was a better candidate for the office of commander in chief than Kennedy was. So there was always tension between the two men. There was tension between the two men, and what's his name? J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover was mixed in with all of that. Okay, so and J. Edgar Hoover was uh, was docking all of these other people, but he was running around in a dress in the background, dressing, cross dressing, and running with another man and all of this other stuff. So, yes, J. Edgar Hoover. I can't say the three-letter word because I'll get the video docked. So all of this stuff was going on. I won't drag Martin Luther King into it at this point, but Kennedy sent LBJ to Vietnam as an advisor, hoping that LBJ would not come back, hoping that LBJ would get smoked over in Vietnam. But L. Lyndon Baines Johnson survived going to Vietnam, and he came back with the vendetta to wipe out JFK. So, wouldn't you know it, JFK gets wiped out in LBJ's home precinct 13. What a coinky dink. All right. Now it's more involved even than this. So there's this guy who's a red sympathizer, and the men in black know all about the guy. He's allowed to buy a rifle through mail order, and he stations himself up in the book depository for the area. Okay, but what they don't know, what they don't know is that there are other people. One is at the grassy knoll. Another shooter is in a sewer. He's in a sewer. Okay. Yes, thank you. Oswald was the fall guy. Okay. So Oswald is sitting up in a book depot, and he's got his $22 mail order uh, rifle. Okay. And so in any case, in any case, Kennedy swings on by, and if you watch the video very slowly, the men in black, the CI, you know who, they go like this on their headpieces. Okay, thank you, Matt. I was ignoring the person. So I found out ignoring the person works better than confronting them. So in any case, the CI, you know who guys, are told to get away from the Lincoln, and they hop off the car. You can see them. They're like, "What are you telling us to do? Why?" Okay. Then as the Lincoln passes this sign, all of a sudden you see Kennedy with his arms up defensively. All right. And his brains are being splattered all over Jackie as she climbs down the trunk of the car to safety. All right. And then they had the Warren report that said all of that was done with only one bullet. Yeah, right. So this is where it really gets involved. This is where it really gets involved. The Warren report wants to blame everything on Oswald and his magic bullet that goes through the back of the car, gets Kennedy, it hits this other colonel, what's his name, and it makes a chink in the windshield frame of the car. It goes this way, and then it goes that way, and then it comes back, and it thinks about, capping this other person. Why not? He's in the way. So, one person gets absolutely splattered. The other person gets it in the back. And then the other guy almost lost his hand because he's holding on to the frame of the windshield. And when he moves his hand, that's where the bullet kerplunk hits the frame of the windshield, the magic bullet. So now, they have what they want. They've silenced JFK, but they have to make the Warren report. They have to make the Warren report fly. So what do? The body of JFK is just decimated, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit with the one bullet story. So what do they do? What do they do? There's a police officer that everybody knows about in this precinct. He looks just like JFK. He looks just like splitting image of JFK. So wouldn't you know it? What a coinky dink. The police officer gets capped in the head, perfectly like what they needed for the Warren report. Now, I personally have always felt that that body of the police officer is in that grave with the eternal flame and all of that other stuff, and that if they were to exhume the body, they would find that it was the body of the police officer and the body of JFK had been switched. I firmly believe that, okay? So you have all of this going on, all of this going on. Then you have LBJ is sworn in on Air Force One. LBJ is sworn in. You look at the picture, he's being sworn in. He's cutting his eyes at Jackie, like, keep your mouth shut or you will be next. So then they still had to get rid of Robert Kennedy. So Robert Kennedy, Robert Kennedy is rising higher and higher in the political spectrum, and he is very much against LBJ, and he has made it known that he's the new sheriff in town. He's going to clean everything up regardless, and he gets capped by Sirhan in a hotel lobby. Okay, so he gets capped by Sirhan. Now, in the meantime, I remember that day because my mother put her face in her hands and wept. I had never seen my mother cry like that in my entire life. Her president, her Catholic leader, because we were raised Catholic. My mother bawled like a little baby that day. So now you have Oswald is brought out in front of everybody, and everybody wants a piece of his hairy little behind, his little red, behind. And so Jack Ruby, a restaurant owner, comes out of the crowd, boom, and caps Oswald. Okay, so you can see that the doors of ever finding out the truth are closing as this person gets capped, then that person, then that person, then that person. But they still haven't reached anywhere near the amount of people that have been accidentally capped as the ones that know Bill and Hillary, all capped the same way with the same caliber of ammunition and all. What a coinky dink. What a coinky dink. All right. So LBJ, LBJ is in office, and he is going to make the most of it with what he calls the Great Society. That's using the blacks. That's using the blacks in order to spend a whole lot of money on a whole lot of programs. And what they're going to do is they're going to increase roads and infrastructure. You always hear roads and infrastructure. So what do? They run these highways through black neighborhoods, right through the center of the neighborhood, cutting all of these black neighborhoods in half, so that the old woman, can't walk to the store anymore. She's got to get on a bus and go up to another exit, cross the highway, take a bus, come back down, go to the store, take a bus, go back up, take a bus back down home, because they cut all of these neighborhoods right in half with these highways and stuff. Robert Kennedy, yes, yes. A whole lot of other stuff had gone on where Joe Kennedy's daughter had embarrassed the family, so uh, they had her lobotomized. They had her lobotomized. Okay, that was a scandal. Then Ted Kennedy had his secretary uh, in his 1967 Oldsmobile, okay? And for some reason he drove along in the fog and literally drove off a pier, and the car plopped into the water, and he got out of the car and he left the girl, and they said the girl was alive for quite some time in the car. She's in the car, she can't get out for whatever reason, and she drowned while Ted Kennedy was attending a party. Thank you, Matt. Matt is boiling today. He's right on the money. So Matt essentially is my producer. So Ted Kennedy gets out of the Oldsmobile and leaves Mary Jo Kopechne. Pop, you're doing this out of memory. A 70-year-old man, 3 languages going on in your mind, all your teeth, doing this from memory. Pop. That's awesome, man. It's awesome, but it wasn't awesome what happened to innocent people. So in any case, LBJ decides to have all of these programs run by his great society, and LBJ gets caught saying that he will have these uppity N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. Uppity N-words is what he referred to the African Americans, uppity N-words. So, Kenny Pang says, shout out to Caden. All right, shout out to Caden. If you keep doing that, you're going to get timed out because Matt is going to let you say hi and all, but he's not going to let you hog the comments by typing something in for 1,000 times. I get to everybody in the comments. You don't have to worry that Pop isn't going to give you a shout out. Oh, Pop, shout me out, Pop, shout me out, Pop. Get to me, Pop. Oh, gosh. If I don't have a shout out, I have to have a stuffed animal and a warm blankie and a cup of hot chocolate in a safe room and a coloring book. So, Poop Like a Champion is a cereal on Amazon. I've done several commercials for it. So in any case, there you have the whole nasty thing in a nutshell. The building highways through black neighborhoods in order to like they said, infrastructure, and we're rebuilding it all, yes, but they built right through these black neighborhoods and put highways so that grandma couldn't walk to the store to get her groceries. Same thing as they did when I worked in Virginia. They moved all of the low income people out and built Virginia up for the upper class, the people who could afford the big ching. So you're in Greensboro, North Carolina, and they're not allowing those people from the flood to rebuild because it turns out that in North Carolina there's a whole bunch of lithium under that ground. It's a whole bunch of lithium that the gov wants to get to under that ground. So you can forget a lot of those people ever being able to go back home. So now you have other things come into play. You have Lyndon Baines Johnson and his Great Society, which is going to be nothing but a welfare hook in the mouth, all right? It's going to promulgate breaking up the black family, all right? They have to break up the black family, get everybody on welfare, get everybody hooked. They have to depopulate these, as Lyndon Baines Johnson would say, these uppity N words because of sacrifices like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Malcolm X was a very brilliant, he was a very brilliant orator. They asked him why he called himself Malcolm X because, see, when they got the slaves off of the boats, it was almost like a joke to the white man to grab a slave off the boat and say, "You're Brown, you're White, you're Johnson, you're Jackson, you're Lincoln, you're Jefferson," giving these people slave names. They lost their identity, they lost their original identity. The tragic thing is that later on, you had brothers and sisters being put together to make more slaves for the plantations and all. And so there was intermixing and intermingling. Of course, they weren't allowed education, all of this other stuff. And it still goes on today, fam. 80% of babies that are scraped out of their mother's belly, like seeds out of a pumpkin and thrown into the trash, are black or mixed race babies. That's why blacks in America only make up 11 or 13% of the population. Okay? So, uh, and the slaves came up with the slave language, but because they didn't want the white man to understand what they were talking about. The slaves weren't all from the same places, but they came up with a slave language that they could talk that their slave masters would not understand. And of course, then they would get the whip and everything else, get the crap beat out of them and all of that other stuff. So Malcolm X was referring to all of that, his lost identity. And then who was the other guy? His name was like Wilford Gibbs or something like that. Wilford Gibbs. And he was very much a citizen trying to get along. And he had moved into a white neighborhood. And of course, he got the brick through the living room window and all that other stuff. I don't remember the guy's name. There was Charles Drew, who technically invented separating blood platelets out of whole blood. And the urban legend is that Charles Drew bled to death after a car accident in 1950. He bled to death because the hospital said they couldn't help him. They didn't have monkey blood. And he was the guy who invented separating whole blood into whole blood and platelets so that you could give the platelets to a bleeding man and stop the bleeding if his blood type didn't match. And that way the man would not get sick. So that was another irony and horrendous tragedy. You know, you have the Tuskegee experiment where the government health program went to blacks in Tuskegee and gave them shots, okay, gave them jabbity jabs, but it had syphilis in it. It had syphilis. And then they were going to study how the men died of heart failure and arthritis and blindness and deafness and all of the effects of syphilis on this unknowing population. Bill Clinton outed that, so that was to Bill Clinton's good. You had the black men during uh, Yeah, Charles Drew was he was a very brilliant man. Then you had the thing about the uh, the blacks that got blown to smithereens during WW2 because they used the blacks to load the ammo into the ships, and something got dropped apparently in the heat. It was hot, and they were working too fast, and something got dropped, and the men got blown to bits. You have that boxer who was a very brilliant man. You have that boxer who is a very brilliant man, and he got cheated out of something, and he ran his car into a telephone pole. That was another irony. I call them black ironies. Brilliant people that did a lot of good, and wound up with their lives destroyed. And having been a garbage collector, back then when I was a kid, if you did a menial job like picking up garbage or bussing tables or working in a hotel, hauling luggage for people, you were called boy. If you were shining shoes, you were called boy. Many times when I was a kid working someplace, somebody would click their fingers and go, "Hey, boy, come here, boy." And you had to say, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am." There wasn't any way around it. I worked in a gas station. People would say, "Fill it up, boy. Check under the hood, boy." So there was a rally of these black men, and they were holding up signs that said, "I am a man," in case you haven't noticed. "I am a man. I'm not a boy." So that's where the whole, "Hey, man, what's up, man? Hey, man." Everyone was like calling each other man, you know. "Hey, man." That's where that came from. All right. Uh, See, I'm from that time period. I'm from that time period. I dated an African, well, I dated African American girls. I dated a bunch of them. And see, back in my day, that was illegal. Race mixing was illegal. And it did not stop for real in America until 1968 when they had the rally at Glen Echo Park, okay? And Jim Vance, the news guy, was in on that. And they closed the park because after it was integrated, it became a nuisance. So they closed it. Later on, it reopened as a national monument that we all know, Glen Echo Park. Now, interestingly enough, I looked up the white beach that I went to as a child, and the beach is not white only anymore. Obviously, the beach is still there, but it's members only. It's not white only, but it's members only. So when when my prom came around and my graduation came around, which would have been uh, right around the time all this stuff was being fought out, even though I went to a hippie high school, even though I went to a hippie high school, there were barriers that were not crossed. The racial barrier being one that was left. So I was not allowed to bring my girlfriend or dance with my girlfriend at the prom night. I had to watch a black guy dance with her, and the blacks and the whites still did not dance together. They were not all on the floor together, and it was a very few blacks with mostly white graduating uh, company. All right. So they gave me this little runny nosed. Uh, they gave me this little runny nosed girl that always had a Kleenex around her nose, Melissa, and her mother made me buy the $155 prom photograph kit, you know, album. And I never got one picture of Melissa and I. The mother kept them all to give out to her family and friends to prove that her little Weasley, measly Weasley, red nosed, runny nosed little girl, Melissa, had actually gotten a date for the prom. Holly and I never got together after that. Maybe she maybe she felt that I hadn't stuck up for her or whatever. She was a beautiful girl with a beautiful voice. I believe that we both would have been like opera singers or something. That was another hook in the road in my life. But after that, after the whites stopped turning uh, fire hoses on black people and stopped having their German shepherds bite them in the ass, they were like, we're good, right? They were afraid of retaliation. They were like, okay, we good now, right? We good? Solid. Okay. All right. Then Norman Lear in the 60s started his business of using media to swing the pendulum back to the left and make all white people look like imbeciles. And what's up, Urdu? So, Sadhu, thank you, Sadhu. So, Urdu would not, by the way, speak Hindi. Urdu would speak Urdu. So instead of saying acha for good, in Urdu, I would say sadhu. I would say sadhu. I would not say acha. So, all right. So we got that covered. We got that covered. And yes, there are good and bad in every race, but when society uh, is postured in a certain way, people will say, "Well, I did this to the other person because it was the way everybody else did it. Everybody else, weak people, weak people are your most dangerous people in a society because your weak people will go along with massacring other people because they were told to and they wanted to go with the flow and they didn't know any better and all that, like the Germans that said, well, why are we here being tried? Why are we being tried, when we were told to do this? All right. It's an issue of morality, whether or not you're told. The issue is always in God's purview. Have you sinned against God? Have you sinned against the other man? It will always come to God's standard. All right. That's why America was formed. America was formed as a constitutional republic. America was not formed as a democracy. A democracy is mob rule. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. And fam, remember that the comments section does not necessarily jive with my channel. We are very liberal. We are very liberal to the comments section. We only time out or bar somebody if they get really extreme using hate speech or threatening another person or trying to mislead another person. We're very loving with our trolls because we're trying to bring everybody into the body of Christ. All right. So it's time to wrap it up. All of those of you that think that a politician, any politician, on either side of the aisle is going to make America great again or bring in a golden age, you're fooling yourself. You're fooling yourself. It's too much dragging against the tide of good at current. God will handle it at one point. God is letting people burn themselves out. He's letting people separate the bad from the good on their own. It's up to you and I to call people out to Christ through to the one true and living God through Jesus Christ. All right, because time is short. All of these idiot people, these evil men and women who are the elites pulling the strings of the world, they have now convinced themselves that global nuclear WAR would actually be good for the globe, and it would cool the globe down and block out the sun for a while and all of that, depopulate the earth, and then after a while start it all over again. That's why they're trying to tow that great big landmass. They're trying to use CERN to tow that great big landmass out from under Antarctica so that they could repopulate that. But that land has already been populated at one point because they found out that that land under Antarctica has got pyramids on it. It's got pyramids on it. Obviously, it doesn't have people now being 50 degrees below zero, but it does have pyramids. So they're trying to tow that land back into a better climate. When I first moved to the street I'm on, it was totally north and south. Now, if I were to take a compass and use it, my street would point 15 degrees west. So that's why the weather's getting all goofy. They're doing things with the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. They're doing things with HARP to push the Earth's ionosphere out into space, which, by the way, is very dangerous because they could end up percolating Earth's water out into the solar winds, and we could end up like Mars. Now, I personally believe that when we finally get to Mars, we will find out that very probably man lived on Mars at one time, destroyed that planet, hopped into his spaceships, came to Earth, and then is in the process of destroying Earth. I think that would be ironic. So I just have in the back of my mind that when they finally get to Mars, they will find hieroglyphics and stuff written on the wall and all of that other stuff. So, in any case, fam, it's been fun hanging out with Pops. It's been interesting. Thank you to my moderator, Matt, for the splendid job that he did in both moderating and looking things up and being essentially a program manager is uh, is really what Matt has morphed into, and I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for all my fam. I spent 2 hours in prayer this morning. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying, all of you that asked me for prayer, you got it. I hope the good Lord gives you a beautiful, glorious day today. Pop Pop's out.